Yes, hello. Welcome to yet another episode where we shall be looking at the proposed memorandum for the May-June Mathematics Paper 2 for 2025. Okay. So as I promised that we would see each other, we would meet each other during the Paper 2 conversation. Yes, I've honored the appointment. Okay. So the paper is 3 hours. Okay. And then instruction, we're having 10 questions this time around, unlike paper one that had 11 questions. Okay, so there's a special answer book. Okay, show diagrams, blah, blah, blah. Okay, those are instructions. We have to do everything. Then question number 1, which is the statistics that most people call data handling. Okay, so question 1, they're telling us that an insurance broker signed contracts with 15 people. The monthly premium in rands payable on each contract is given as below. Okay, so we have these amounts which are already arranged for us in order. Beautiful. Then they ask us to calculate the mean. So when you punch everything in the calculator, okay, which means the mean is going to be the sum, which is 58554 divided by 15. And this gives me 570.27. Okay, so if you follow the procedure of punching this in the calculator using the mod and the start kind of direction. Then 1.2, they're asking us for the standard deviation. So the standard deviation that I'm having is a 29, it's 291, not a 29. Okay, so it's 291.03. That is still runs, but the units are not really relevant in this case, okay? Whether you put them or not, you'll still get your marks. Then 1.3, they're asking us to calculate the monthly premiums within one standard deviation, meaning that we must get the mean minus the standard deviation, and then we must get the mean plus the standard deviation. So if I get the mean, which is the 570.27 minus 291.03, my upper limit is 570.27 plus 291.03. This gives me a limit of 294.24. And then the upper limit is going to be 861.3. Okay, so how many data pieces are within this interval? Okay, so when I count between 294, that's from here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. Okay, below 100. So which means we have 10 premiums. Okay, so that is what we have for 1.3. All right, then. Okay, so 1.4, they're telling us that the insurance company decided to increase the monthly premiums. Okay. The monthly premiums that were less than 500, they were increased by 18%. And then those ones above or record 500, they were increased by a certain percentage, which is K. After the increments in the data, a new mean was determined as 686.44. They want us to get the value of K. All right, so what we're going to do there. So I know very many people might have different opinions on how to work this out, but I'm just going to use my format for as long as we get to the correct answer. So I need to add up all the amounts that are less than 500. So 134, 215, all these ones. So how many are they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So these 6 amounts, when I add them up, I'm going to get 1,791. Then I'm going to multiply this by 118 over 100 so that I get the new total for those 6 amounts, okay? So when I do that, I'm getting 2113.38. Alternatively, somebody would have said 18% of this and then you plus again, okay? So we have this as our first total. Then the amounts above 500, okay, that's below 500. And then above 500, I can just subtract the total that we had, 8554, minus this total of ours, okay? So that gives me, I can do that. I can subtract this from that, but that would be suicidal. Let me rather add up. Okay, subtract 8554 minus 1791. Okay, this gives me 6763. Okay, so if I have a 6763, and then I'm gonna multiply it. Okay, plus 6763 times k%. Okay, this must give me the other total. Okay, which means I'm gonna have this. Alternatively, if this 1k, I don't want to say 1k, but you'll have 100 plus k, and then you multiply this with this entire thing, you'll end up still with the same thing. Okay, then after getting this, I need to plus the 2 and try to find the mean, okay? So I'll have 2113,38 plus the 6763 plus the 6763k%, okay? And then I'm gonna divide this by 15 and then equate it to the new mean, which is 686,44, okay? Then I'll multiply both sides by 15 so that I get rid of the 15. So times 15, then times 15. So this cancels 2113,38 plus, that's going to be 6763 plus the 6763k, the percentage should give me, what answer do I have there when I multiply? Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so when I multiply that, I'm ending up with a 10296,6. Okay, let's just confirm that 686,44 multiplied by 15. 10296,6. Okay, let's plus this together. We're gonna get 8876,38 plus the 6763k% is equal to 10296,6. Let's move this that side. It will be a subtraction. 6763k% should give us, when you do your subtraction, I'm ending up with a 1420,22 divided by 6763. Okay, so meaning that our k% is something like a 0.20998 multiplied through by 100. K is approximately 21%. Okay, so that's what I'm getting. Okay, you can use your short method that is quick and still get the same answer, but this is how I would have approached it in the longest format. Okay, then question number 2. Question number 2, they're telling us that the manager of a supermarket decided to do a survey on the number of items that a customer ordered online and the time in minutes that the packer took to have the order ready for delivery. So they have 10 online orders on a certain day, and then the information is for those 10 orders. Okay, so we have the bivariant type of data. Okay, they want us to draw a scatter plot. Can I draw it here? Okay, so let me just put it down here. Okay, so that's your y, and that is your x. We don't have any negative numbers in this case, okay? So you guys had a graph book or graph page. So yours was kind of neater and slightly quicker. So with mine, what I'm going to do is, let me use x, okay? Because this x is representing the number of items. I believe that's what it was. And then this time we shall have the time. So if I have this as a 5, I can have a 10, a 15, a 20, and then lastly, I have a 25. Then up here, the highest value I'm getting, I think, is it's a 12. So meaning that I'll have a 2, a 4, a 6, 8, 10, and probably a 12 somewhere there. So what we need is just the trend of how things are happening, okay? So 10 is going with 5. 10 is there, 5 is somewhere there. Then we have 3 is going with 5 again, 3 somewhere there, 5 is more or less around there. Then 20 is going with 9. 9 is slightly before 10. Okay. Then 14 is with 7. 14 is there. 7 is slightly between 6 and 8. And then 17 and 6. 17 is somewhere there. 6 is somewhere here. And then 9 and 6. 9 is there. 6 is somewhere there. Then 12 and 8. So 12 could be here. And then 8 should be somewhere there. Then 18 and 11. 18 and then 11 is somewhere there. Up. And then we have 15 and 10. And then we have it somewhere there. And then 19 and 12. 19 and then the last point, which is 12. So we must have this kind of shape that is having a positive sort of relationship, okay? So that is done. And then 2.2, they want us to get the equation of the least square regression line. So we know that that equation should be in the form of A plus BX. So my A that I have is a 3,079, or you can round it off to 3,08. And then the B, okay, the B I'm having is a 0,351, which is the same also as a 0,35. So Y is going to be 3,079 plus 0,351x. I'll use just 3 decimals. 2 decimals, perfect, well and good. Okay, then I need to find the correlation. So after punching all these numbers into the calculator, yes, that's how I obtain my A's and my B. So my correlation coefficient is 0,74 to 2 decimals. And then 2.4, they're telling us that the supermarket received 13 orders or an order of 13 items. Okay, can we predict how long in minutes? So we have to use this equation of ours, the regression equation, meaning that is 3,079 plus 0,351 multiplied by 13. If I were to use, let's say, that other one with just the 2 decimals, what would be my answer? So the answer I'm getting is 7,64 minutes if I use the 3 decimals. If I use just 2 decimals of the equation, I should be having something like 7,63, which is approximately 8 minutes. Okay, that's if I'm to round it off. Then 2.5, it's not a must to round off. Even these decimals are perfect. Then explain why the y-intercept of this line does not make sense. So meaning that the y-intercept, which is a 3,07 something, why doesn't it make any sense? Simply means that if we have an order with no items, that is going to take us 3, something minutes or 3 minutes to arrange that order. So that basically doesn't make sense, because whenever an order is placed, there are items that have to be there. Okay, so in other words, an order must have at least 1 or more items. You cannot make an order and then you don't, order. It's like calling pizza people and you're like, oh, I need a pizza. How many? 0 pizzas. Doesn't make sense. So the explanation should be around that. Okay, then question number 3. In the diagram below, this triangle is drawn where R lies on the x-axis, okay, and S lies on the left of R. Okay, T lies on the y-axis, coordinates of that. The equation of RT is this, meaning that this equation is also the same as 2x plus 10. Okay, let's have it in a simplified version there. Then they want us to get the coordinates of R. So we know that R is the x-intercept, and then at this x-intercept, y is always a 0. So I'll come down and say that 0 is equivalent to x plus 10. Move the 2 that side, negative 2x is a 10, meaning that x is a negative 5. So R is going to be negative 5 and 0. Okay, that's how I get the 2 marks. And then 3.2, they want me to get the coordinate, sorry, the length of RT. I leave my answer in a third form. Now, given that the equation of RT is 2x plus 10, we know that this 10 is the y-intercept, simply telling us that the coordinates there are 0 and 10. Okay, they want us to find the length of RT. Since we've proved that this is a -5, and we know that this is a 90, we can use the Pythagoras, or you can use your distance formula. There is no problem with that, okay? So if I use the Pythagoras, that's a 10, that's a 5, meaning that my RT is gonna be the square root of 10 squared plus 5 squared, okay? Say square root of 10 squared plus 5 squared gives me 5√5. Okay, 5√5 units. That is what we would have done to get that. Alternatively, use your distance formula. Okay, you still get the same answer. All right, then 3.3. Question 3.3. What do they need? They're asking us to determine the value of m if 2RT squared, okay, twice the RT squared, meaning that the 5√5, and then we square that, should give us 5 SR squared. So what is our SR? We don't know what SR is, but we're gonna use the coordinate or the distance formula to determine that. Okay, so where can I do this? Okay, I can write it here. Okay, so where we have the left-hand side, we shall have 2 into 5√5 squared should give us the SR. I'll say it is m minus -5, which is a +5 squared, plus this is 1 minus 0 squared. This is our SR squared, okay, from the distance formula. So I'll replace that is, so m plus 5 squared plus the 1. I'll open up this bracket and also simplify this side. So the 250 here is gonna be m squared plus 10m plus 25 plus 1. Let's move everything to one side of the equals. No, there's something I missed out. There's a 5 here. Okay, so we don't need to leave that 5 out. So meaning that this must be multiplied by the 5. Okay, so 250 is gonna be 5m squared plus 50m, and then 26 times 5. What do we get? 26 times 5 gives me a 130. Then let me get the standard equation. So 5m squared plus 50m. So 130 minus 250 gives me a 120. I can divide through by 5, okay? So m squared plus 10m minus, what's 120 divided by 5? I'm getting a 24. Gives us a 0. Which two numbers can we look at? Factorize that. I'll have m minus 12. No, it's plus 12. And then m minus 2. Yeah, makes sense. Mean that either m is a -12 or m is a +2. But looking at the position of m, it's on the negative side, which means that our m should be a -12. Okay, so that is how we would have obtained those values, okay? We move on to the next one. Question 3.4. Okay, so 3.4, they're telling us if it's further given that V lies on the line ST, okay, such that VR is perpendicular to ST, can we determine the equation of VR in this form? So one thing we know is that for as long as lines are perpendicular, the product of their gradients must always be a -1. So we're saying this is a -12 and 1. Okay, that's a 0 and 10. So we can find the gradient of this line, ST. Okay, let me put it aside. So we said S is -12 and 1. T is 0 and 10. So gradient of ST is gonna be 10 minus 1 over 0 minus -12. Okay, gradient is change in Y over change in X, meaning that we have a 9/12, which becomes a 3/4. Okay, that's the gradient of the line ST. Now, if they are perpendicular, meaning that the 3/4 multiplied by the gradient of V, is it Vs? No, it's VR. Okay, gradient of VR must give us a -1. So the gradient of VR becomes -4/3. But VR is passing through -5 and 0. So for us to get the equation, y minus y1 is equal to m into x minus x1 is what I'm going to use. Okay, meaning that I have y minus 0 is equal to -4/3 into x minus minus, which gives me a +5. I open this up, I have a -4/3x minus 20/3. So that is the equation that the question wanted. Okay. Then 3.5, can we show, hence, can we show that the coordinates of V are -8 and 4? Okay, how do we prove that that's -4, -8 and 4? So what I'm gonna do, 2 marks. What would people have done in this kind of scenario? Because the approach I have is kind of lengthy for 2 marks. Okay, because what I need is just more like the equation of this line, and then I'll solve the two simultaneously. Okay, that's the option that I have currently. Okay, so we know that the equation of this line, since we say that the gradient is gradient of ST, we got it as a 3/4. Yes, 3/4. Okay, so it's a 3/4 with x. The y-intercept is a 10. This is our equation. Okay, then we already have the equation of this other line that we found. So I'm just gonna solve them simultaneously there. This is question number 3.5, okay? So we're saying 3.5. We're saying y is a 3/4x plus 10. And then the other equation for the VR, we said it's a -4/3 x minus 20/3. Let's equate the two. 3/4x plus 10 should give us -4/3x minus 20/3. So I'm going to multiply through by 12 because I want to get rid of the denominators. So by 12, by 12, by 12, and then by 12. So that's going to give me a 9x plus a 120 is equivalent to -16x. That and that is going to give me -80. Okay, then I'll collect the like terms. I'll move the 16 that side. I have a 25x. And then 120 moving it that side, I'll have a -200, meaning that our x is a -8. Then get this -8, then I'll replace it into this equation. I mean, for 2 marks, something is fishy here. No? But we have the answer. Okay, there's no need to stress. We have the answer. So this is going to give us a -6 plus 10, which is a 4. Okay, so y becomes a 4. So that is how I would have proved it, okay? If you have a shorter way, please feel free to share with us in the comment section. All right, then 3.6. They're telling us that R prime is a reflection of R about the line x is equal to 0. Now, this line is the same as the y-axis. Okay, because along the y-axis, x is a 0. So where is R? Okay, let me just use a different color. Okay, so if we are reflecting it about the y-axis, which means instead of it being a -5, it's going to end up being a +5. Okay, rather let me erase this out. So if it's a +5, the question now wants us to determine the area. Are we looking for the area? I suppose. Okay, they want us now to find the area of the quadrilateral. Okay, this T, that point, this, that, and there we go, something like that. Okay, they want us to find the area of that quadrilateral. Okay, so for 5 marks. So the trick here is for us to understand that we have two triangles. I'll call this triangle A, and then I'll call this triangle B if I split it into 2. Okay, both of them are right angled because I already have a height here, because my height is going to be 10, because from here up to here is a 10, and then here up to here is also a 10. Okay, this one is automatically right angled. The only thing I need to find is the distance. Okay, find VT, and then I also find VR. If I do that, I'm good to go. All right, so let's get VT. Okay, so we said V is going to be -8 and 4. T is 0 and 10. Okay, so meaning that our VT, what is our VT? People with calculators, okay, is a 10 minus 4 squared. If we use the distance formula, 0 minus -8 squared under the square root. So 10 minus 4, that is a 6 and 8, meaning that this is 10 units. Okay, then we said we also need which other distance? We need the distance VR. Okay, so VR, we know that our R is going to be a -5 and 0, meaning that it's going to be the square root of -8 minus -5 squared, then plus 4 minus 0 squared. Okay, when we punch this into the calculator, we have the square root of, that's going to be 3, which is a 9, plus a 16, meaning that it is 5 units. Okay, so I need to find the area of this. So this is a 5, this is a 10. We have this as a 10, we have that as a 10. So let's get the area of A plus the area of B. Okay, area of A plus the area of B. So that is a half. The base, let me have this as my base, which is a 10, and then let this be a height because these two are perpendicular. Okay, so it's 10 times 5, then plus a half. We said the base of B is this total distance, which is a 10. The height is also 10. Okay, 10 times 10. Okay, so when we simplify the first part, that's going to be a 25. And then this is going to be 100 divided by 2, which is 50, meaning that our answer is 75 units squared. So that is how we would have obtained those 5 marks. All right, then question number 4. The diagram, M is the center of the circle having this equation, okay, meaning that the coordinates of M here are 3 and 0. Okay, and then the radius is 5 based on this. Okay, so if that's a 5, meaning that this one is also a 5. Okay. Then E is -1, 3 tier points on the circle. EC is a tangent. Okay, so if it's a tangent, okay, there's something we're gonna see. E cuts at D, that's perfect. And then they're telling us the distance ED is 15 over 4. Then MT is produced to get point C. Perfect. They want the size of CEM. So CEM, this angle here. So we know that that angle is a 90. Why? Because it's a tangent perpendicular to the radius. Okay, tangent and the radius will be perpendicular. And then they want the equation of the tangent EC in the form of mx plus c. So what we need to know is that whenever they ask us for the equation of the tangent, we need to first of all get the gradient, okay, of the radius to the tangent. So gradient of the radius is going to be change in y over change in x, meaning that I'll get my 3 minus 0 over -1 minus 3. So this gives me a -3 over 4. Yeah? That is for the radius. Then we know that gradient of the radius times the gradient of the tangent must give us a -1, meaning that the gradient of the tangent is going to be a 4 over 3. Okay, so we have our gradient as a 4 over 3. Then we need to write down the equation using this point E. Okay, so I'll say y minus y1 is equal to m into x minus x1. So y minus 3, I'm using point E, is equal to 4 over 3 into x minus minus 1, which gives me a plus. Okay, open this up as you transpose. So it's a 4 over 3x. That's going to be a plus 4 over 3. When I move this 3 that side, becomes a positive 3. So it's a 4 over 3x. This is going to be 9, which is a 13 over 3. This is the equation that the question wanted. Okay. Then they want the length dm. Okay. The length dm. Now, since we've proved that this is a 90, we know that the radius is 5. We can find this using the theorem of Pythagoras. Okay. Meaning that our dm is the longest side, is opposite 19. It's going to be the square root of 5 squared plus the 15 over 4 squared. You punch that in the calculator. How many marks is it? It's 3 marks. Okay. When I punch that in the calculator, I'm getting 25 over 4 units. Okay. Alternatively, one would have started, since we already have this equation, you start by getting the coordinate of D. Okay. And if you look for the coordinates of D, because at D, the y is 0, you're going to end up with a negative 13 over 4. And then you just plus this together. So it's going to be 13 or 3 minus 13 over 4. So that should give you a 25 over 4 as that. Okay. So that is 4.3. And then can we show that P is negative 5? So we already have the equation here. And we already have the x value. So let's replace the x with the negative 7 and see. So 4 over 3 into negative 7 plus 13 over 3. When I punch that into the calculator, that's negative 28 over 3. Okay, plus 13 over 3. So perfect. It comes out as a negative 1. Then 4.5, can we calculate the coordinates of S? Okay, where SEMC is a parallelogram and the x coordinate of ACE is negative. Okay, it's less than 0. So they're telling us that there is a parallelogram. Okay, in other words, there is some extra coordinate. So I'll just put that coordinate around here. I don't know, anyway. I'll call that S. And then I have my X and then my Y. So if I connect that and then connect that, I'll have some sort of a parallelogram. I know it's weird, it's ramshackle, but it's no big deal. Ne? What we need at the end of it is for us to come up with the correct answers, okay? So what I'm going to do there, okay, because I know the position is off, it might also be misleading. Let me just have it drawn somewhere, maybe here, so that it looks like a real parallelogram, okay? So that is X and Y. Okay, so X is on the other side. Now, whenever we have a parallelogram, the trick of determining the opposite sides or the missing, not sides, but the missing coordinates is for us to use what we call the midpoint formula. Okay, so we need to use the midpoint formula. So we need to get the midpoint of each C, which must also be the same midpoint as SM. Okay, so midpoint of EC. So it's saying the midpoint of EC, whereby we know that E is negative what? Negative 1 and 3. And then C, they said negative 7 and 5. Is that correct? Okay. So let's plus that and we see. So negative 1, also midpoint is x1 plus x2, divide by 2, y1 plus y2, divide by 2. So that's the formula, okay? So we're going to have a negative 1 plus a negative 7 divided by 2. 3 plus 5 divided by 2, meaning that our midpoint coordinates are going to be negative 4, as well as there's something wrong. This is a negative 5. I don't know why I'm using a positive. So negative 4 and negative 1. Okay, so those are the coordinates of the midpoint. Then we know that our S, which is xy, must also have the same midpoint as M with the 3, 0. SM must have the same midpoint. Okay, so if I use the midpoint formula again, I'll have x plus 3 over 2 should give me -4. And then when I cross multiply, that's going to be a -8. Move the 3 that side. X is a -11. Then y plus 0 over 2 must give me this y value of the midpoint. Then that our y is going to be a -2. So that is how I would have gone about answering that question. So they want the coordinates. Okay, so we said -11 and then -2. All right. And then 4.6. Okay. 4.6, they're telling us that if the radius of the circle that is centered at M is increased by 7. Okay. Now, if this radius is increased by 7, meaning that the new radius is going to have 12 what? 12 units. Good. Now, they're asking us, determine whether S lies inside or outside of the new circle. Support your answer with the necessary calculations. So when I look at the center, okay, so I'm going to look at this center and this coordinate S and see what distance is here. So if the distance between S and M is smaller than 12, then it lies within. If the distance is bigger, then it lies outside. Okay, so we shall say that our S, which is -11 and -2, our M, which is 3 and 0. Okay, so we're going to say that the distance SM will be the square root of 3 minus -11 squared plus 0 minus -2 squared. Guys, I apologize for not writing the formulas, okay? But you know what we're doing, eh? Good. So this is going to be 14 squared plus F4. Okay, 14 squared plus 4 gives me 200. Then square root of 200, okay? So 14 squared and that gives me 200. And then square root of 200 gives me 14,14. Okay, alternatively, somebody would just compare the 200 and then the square root of, because the new radius, we said it is 5 plus 7, which is 12, which is a 12. And then 12 squared gives us 144. So we can see that the 200 is greater than the 144. Alternatively, you can say this one is still greater than the 12. Therefore, the point S lies outside of the circle. Okay, so whichever format you want, you can compare it using the 200 and the 144, or compare it using the actual values. Okay, so that is how we would have gone about with question number 4.6. All right, 4.7 for 5 marks. This question. Let's see if it makes sense. Okay, because me looking at it, I'm going to do still a longer approach to get to the answer, which might annoy some people. Eh? But let's give it a try. So if we have a line that is being drawn for us, and then that line is being called BT. They want us to find the equation, or they want us to find the angle, okay? Which angle is ETM, this angle here. So the only thing I know, okay, is that this is a 5. If that is a 5, how do we find this angle here for 5 marks? Do we have the equation of CM? Because I'm thinking of finding the equation of CM, but is it going to help? Because we know this is a 90, which is fine. But does it help here? Guys, help, please. If I use the... Okay, I could use the distance formula. So like I said, I'm just going to go the longer route and try to establish. Okay. So what I need is to get the coordinates of t. That's going to make life a bit easier for me from my point of view. Okay. So for me to get that, I need to find the gradient. Okay, let me just erase this and find the gradient of Cm. Guys that worked out this thing in a shorter way, please help us. Ne? So that's going to be -5 minus 0, which is a -5 over -7 minus 3, which gives us a positive a half. Okay, so if it's positive a half and then we use this point, it's going to be y minus 0 is equal to a half into x minus 3. Meaning that our equation is a half of x minus 3. Now let me solve this equation together with the equation of the circle for me to get these points of intersection. Does it make sense? It should make sense. Right, okay, let me give it a try that way. Let me give it a try. So we're saying that the equation of the circle is x minus 3 squared plus y squared gives us a 25. But our y is a half of x minus 3. No, it's a, yeah, it's a minus 3. Let me not, yes, minus 3. Okay, so where there is y, I'm going to put that and then we see what happens. Okay, so x squared, no, let's say x minus 3 squared plus this is a half of x minus 3 squared gives us a 25. Okay, let's open it up. So that's x squared minus 6x plus 9 plus, that's going to be a quarter of x squared minus, that's going to be 3x because I multiply this and then times 2. And then this is going to be a plus 9 minus 25 becomes a 0. Okay, let me just collect my like terms quickly. So this becomes a 5 over 4 x squared. This and that is minus 9x. This and that is 18. What's 18 minus 25? That gives me -7 is equal to 0. Let's multiply through by 4. Yeah, which means it's 5x squared minus 36x minus 28 is 0. Okay, so if, let's say we are to solve this, this is lengthy. Let's hope we don't get lost with this. Okay, we're saying it's equal. So you can use the quadratic formula here to do the solving. Getting big answers here. Okay, so I'm getting something like a 7,9. I don't know what that is. Okay, and then I'm also getting a -0,71. Wow, why so big answers and funny answers? So the x of interest is this side, which is negative. But why is it a small value? -0,71. Okay, so if it's a -0,71, let me punch it into that equation of the line. We said a half of x minus 3. So a half times 0,71 minus 3. Let's see. 0,71 minus 3, which is a -2,65. Okay. So let me get my, what do we call it? Because that is 5. This is also 5. Okay. So I'm saying, let me get my angle or my distance of ET. There's a shorter way, guys. No, man. For 5 marks. So ET is saying -0,71. This is a -2,65. Our E was -1 and 3. Okay. So the distance there is the square root of. Okay, so it's going to be x, which is -1 plus 0.71 squared plus 3 minus minus, so that's a plus. We square that. I'm having doubts with this answer of mine. So -1 plus 0.71 squared plus we're having a 3 plus 2.65 squared. That gives me a 5.66 units. Okay. So now if our triangle is in this format, this is 5.66, that's a 5, and that is also a 5. What do you think is going to be done? Because we know that this angle must be also the same as that. Something is off here, but it's fine, I'll find it out. So then I'm going to use the cosine rule to find this angle. So that is A, B, and C. We know that from the formula page, we know that the cos of A should be A squared. Okay. It's B squared plus C squared minus A squared over twice, something like that. Okay, let me just write it down the way it is on the formula page. Something is off here, but it's okay. So it's saying A squared, in this case, our A squared is equal to B squared minus, no, it's a plus, C squared minus 2BC cos of A. Okay, so if this is our A, it's going to be 5 squared is equal to the 5.66 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times 5.66 multiplied by 5. And then we're saying the cos of A. So this can cancel that. Okay, I'm going to move the 5.66 to that side. So 5.66 squared becomes 32.0356 negative is equal to 2 times 5.66 times 5, which becomes a 56.6 cos of A. It's also negative 56.6 over negative 56.6. My approach that I'm taking is worth 8 marks, not just 5, okay? When I simplify this, so I have a 32.0356. I'm dividing it by 56.6, which is a 0.566. And then I must find the arc cos of 0.566. Sure. So shift cos of 0.566. The answer I'm getting is a 55.53. Wow. What a lengthy approach. Okay, so alternatively, okay, the quicker way would have been to use the gradients. Okay, I think I'm getting back to my senses. For you to get the gradients, and how would that have worked? We know that this is a 5. This is also a 5. This angle will be the same as this angle here. Okay. If we can find this angle and find this angle, whatever is left, we need to subtract it from 180. Okay, then we divide it by 2. So what is the gradient here? Okay, let's just confirm, guys, and we see. I'm sorry for boring you guys with my long method, but we could also use this, okay? So the gradient of EM, remember we said it is 3 minus 0 over -1 minus 3, which is basically 3 over 4 negative. Now, that's the first question we started with. And then the shift tan, okay? The arc tan of -3 over 4 gives us a -36.87. So meaning that this answer here, or the angle here, is a 36.87. You could find also the outside part, no stress. Then if we find the gradient of this, okay, So gradient of CP, which is going to be 0 minus minus 5 over 3 minus minus 7, which we also found as what? A half. Okay, so the shift tan of a half gives us a 26,57. I'll have it as a 57 there. So meaning that this angle here is a 26,57. Even this one will be a 26,57. Then if you plus the two, let's just confirm. Let's hope my answer with the longest method is correct. Okay, so it's saying that 26,57 plus the other one was 36,87. This we must subtract from 180. Then the answer we get, we divide by 2. Okay, so 180 minus the 26,57 plus the 36,87. Okay, I'm getting 116,56. We divide this by 2. Okay, I'm getting a 58. Hey, there's trouble in paradise. 58,28. This case, we had a 55. Okay, so I would vouch for the 58, guys. I would vouch for the 58 because it makes quite a lot of sense. Because we know that this angle must be the same as that angle because those are angles that are opposite equal sides. Okay, then that is 4.7. Then question 5. They're telling us that the cos of theta is negative 5 over 13 within this. So if I'm to look at the quadrants, if this is negative, no, it's positive 118, this is a 360. Okay, where do we find cos to be negative within these two quadrants? Is the third quadrant. So I need to draw my sketch nicely and warmly. Okay, so cos is adjacent, which is a 5, over the hypotenuse, which is 13. So that's going to be a negative. Then I need to find my missing side using the theorem of Pythagoras. So 13 squared minus 5 squared. Okay, under square root. So when I do that, what do we end up with? So that's going to give us a 12 plus minus 12. But since the side is below the y-axis, so it's going to be a negative 12. So the triangle is complete. We go to the sine. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So negative 12 over 13, we square that, which is 144 divided by 169. Opposite over hypotenuse. So 169, no, 144 over 169. Okay, so that is that. And then tan 360 minus theta, which quadrant is this? That is the fourth quadrant. And the tan, because we know that the tan is negative in the fourth quadrant. So it's a negative tan theta, which is a negative. Our tan is opposite over adjacent, negative 12 over 5. That's going to be the answer. Because the negative and negative will be a positive, but this negative makes the answer more negative. And then the cos of theta minus 135. Let's expand this using the compound angles. So that's going to be cos theta cos 135 plus the sine of theta and then the sine of 135. So we know that 135 is in quadrant 2, which will be 180 minus a 45. Okay. So we're going to reduce that. And it's going to be cos of theta. Okay. That's going to be cos theta multiplied by the second quadrant. The cos is negative. So it's going to be negative cos 45. And then we are adding, okay, sine of theta and then the sine of 45. So we know that the cos of 45 is 1 over root 2. Is that correct? It's 1 over root 2. But then our theta from here, our cos theta is negative 5 over 13. Okay, negative 5 over 13. We're multiplying it by the negative 1 over root 2. Plus, the sine is going to be opposite of a hypotenuse, which is negative 12 over 13. We're multiplying it by 1 over square root of 2. Simplify this, that's going to be a 5 over 13 root 2. Okay. 5 over 13 root 2. And then I'm adding, no, I'm not adding, I'm subtracting. Okay, subtracting 12 over 13 root 2. So 7 minus 12, sorry, 5 minus 12, I'm going to get negative 7 over 13 square root of 2. So guys, that is what I'm getting as my final answer. Okay, so that is 5.1.3. Then 5.2. Let's see. 5.2. We've been told that if we have 2 cos, okay, this is 180 minus x multiplied by the sine of negative x, and then we are dividing this by the 1 minus 2 cos squared 90 minus x. Okay, so to answer this question very fast, we need to do the reduction. There's 2. This is second quadrant, the cos is negative, okay? So that's going to be a negative cos x. And then that's also going to be a negative sine x over, this is a manipulated format of the double angle of cos. So if I introduce a negative, it's going to be 2 cos squared 90 minus x, okay, minus 1, something like that. Meaning that I'm just going to write it as negative cos twice of 90 minus x, something like that. Then I know that in the top, it's going to change to 2 cos x sine x over, this is going to be the cos of 180 minus 2x. Okay, so that is a positive. We have a negative down there. Then if we move on further, what we are observing is that we're just going to reduce this to a sine 2 theta or sine 2x. And then this cos is negative in the second quadrant, which is going to give us a positive. So negative and negative, we get a positive, so cos 2x. Simplify sine over cos, we get a tan 2x. Please, you'll help me identify this, because I'm not sure whether I left out a negative sign or because this negative here is what I'm carrying over to this point. But I already know that this and this is a positive. And if it's a 180 minus, then the negative will give me a positive. So that's what I have, guys. Let's confirm with the negative signs. Then 5.3. They want us to calculate the value of the following expression without necessarily getting a calculator. So what I'm going to do is when you look at this pattern, I'm going to look at the first and then the last. Okay. So what is 92 plus 178? This is 178 and then 92. Okay. So 178 plus 92, we have a 270. Now this 270, if you're looking for the tan, okay, let's say we have the tan of 270. How many 45s are in 270? So 270 divided by 45, we have 6 of them. So it would be the same as tan of 6 times 45s. And we know that the tan of 45 is just a 1. Okay. Look at 94 and 176. So 176 plus 94, we still get a 270. 96 and whatever comes there, which is supposedly 174, you get a 270. Meaning that if we multiply these ones together, we're just going to end up with an answer of just a 1. Okay, so 6.1, can we prove that this is the same as that? So what I'm going to do, I'll just use the compound angles and open that up. So it's 2 into, we have cos 45, cos x, minus sine 45, sine of x, but this must be squared. Okay, we're starting with the left-hand side. Then we can change this, or let's open it up further. Does it make sense? Let's change that 2 into 1 over root 2 cos of x minus 1 over root 2 sine of x. This is squared. We can't factorize yet. Let's open that. That's going to be a half cos squared x minus, we know that a half and 1 over root 2 and 1 over root 2, we get a half. When you multiply by 2, you end up with 1. So I'm just going to have cos x and then the sine of x. And then this last part will give me a half sine squared of x. Okay. And then when I open this up, I'll have a cos squared x. That's going to be negative 2 cos x sine x. And then that is a sine squared x. So I know that sine squared and cos squared will give me 1. And then I'm subtracting. This is a double angle of sine. So sine 2x, which is equal to the right-hand side. Okay, so that is question 6.1. 6.2, they want us to prove. We are given sine of this and that. Can we prove that it is equal to that? So still, we're going to do the same thing. The left-hand side first. Okay, so we have the sine of a minus b minus the sine of, is it a minus first or a plus? It's a minus and then we have a plus. This must give us 2 cos a sine b. Let's open up this. So you're going to have the sine of a cos of b minus sine of b cos of a, and then minus, okay, it's going to be sine of a cos of b plus sine of b cos of a. Let's open up here. Sine of a cos of b minus the sine of b cos of a. Open up this further, minus sine of a cos b minus sine of a cos of a. Okay, so this, let's what we cancel out. We have sine a cos b positive, sine a cos b positive. So this cancels that. This is a sine b. Oh, why is this? This is a b and a. Okay, this sine b cos a, sine b cos a. So we're going to have a negative 2 cos a sine b, just the same thing, which is equal to the right-hand side. Okay, that we've proved. Then 6.2.3, we need to simplify. Now, the fact that this question is under what we're having here. So I'm going to let my 4x to be a minus b. And then this is going to be a plus b. So we're saying that a plus b is 4x. And then a minus b is a 6x. If I add these two equations, meaning that twice a is, are those numbers correct? We said 4 and 10. 4 and 10. Why am I saying 6? At the 2, we have 14x, which means that a is going to be a 7x. And then b is definitely going to be a 3x. Then what this means is that where I see the sign of 4x minus the sign of 10x, I'm just going to equate it to this whole thing and say that it's going to end up with negative 2, the cos of a, which is 7x, and then the sine of b, which is 3x. So that is what I would have done for that part. And then hence so determine the general solution, or the solution. They want the solution. Okay, so with the solution, we need to get the definite values of x between 0 and 30. So we're saying that where there is sine of x, okay, sine 4x minus sine of 10x should be equivalent to sine 3x. Okay, so let's replace this with that. So meaning that negative 2 cos 7x sine 3x is equivalent to the sine of 3x. Let's transpose and move it that side. Meaning that's a negative 2 cos 7x sine 3x minus the sine of 3x is equal to 0. Okay, take out the sine 3x. Let's take out the negative. We're going to be left with a negative 2 cos of 7x minus 1 is equal to 0. Okay. Then either the sine 3x is 0, and we know that the reference angle shift cos of 0 is going to be 0. Then we're going to have also an 8 and probably 360, but we're focusing on 30. So the first solution is going to be 0 plus k times 360. K is an element of integers. Will that help us? 180 plus k times 360, k is an element of integers. So this may not really help a lot. Let's look at this other solution. Remember, we took out the negative. I don't know why I'm still having negatives here. We're supposed to have positives inside. Okay, so the other solution will be twice cos. Okay, 2 cos 7x plus 1 is 0, meaning that the cos of 7x should give us negative a half. Then negative simply means we're looking at quadrant number 2 and quadrant number 3. Okay, so the shift cos of a half gives me a 60. Okay, meaning that 7x is going to be a 60 plus k times 360. K is an element of integers. Divide through by 7. I'll just leave it as a 60 over, yeah, I can just change it. What is 60 divided by 7? That gives me 8,57 plus k times 360. K is an element of integers. So this is not going to help us because this is a quadrant 1 angle. We're focusing on quadrant 2, which is the 120. Okay, 7x is going to be a 120 plus k times 360, divide through by 7. So 120 divided by 7, we're getting 17,14 plus k, that is going to be 360 times, no, 360 divided by 7, which gives us a 51,43. K is an element of integers. So if I replace k with 0, I'm going to have a 17,14. If I replace k with a negative, it's going to give me a negative, which I don't want. So this is more or less the solution that I'm getting, 17,14. Okay. Okay, so we have that 17,14, but we can also include the 0 one that we had here, because these equations were giving us a 0 plus k. So if k is a 0, which means 0 will be a solution. So the best solutions will be 0 and then 17,14. All right, so we move on to question number 7. We have two graphs, F and G, okay? Then they want us to write down the range of F. So one thing we need to know is that initially, okay, if we have a 2 cos, the range was supposed to be -2 and +2. But now since we are adding a 1, it's more like +1, then +1. So it's a 3 and then -1. So meaning that y is between -1 and the +3. That is it 7.1? Yes, that is 7.1. Then 7.2, they want the period of G. So when you look at G, how many graphs can we see? This is one graph. Those are 2 graphs, okay, in a space of just 360, meaning that our period, okay, period is just 180. So it takes us just 180 degrees to get a full graph. Alternatively, get the 360 divided by this coefficient of x. We must get the same thing. And then 7.3, they want us to get the values of x in the interval for which f is increasing. So f is increasing from this point up to this point here. It's just increasing. So we're going to say that -180 is less x and then is less 0. So we do not put the equal signs because at -180 and at 0, the graph is typically just changing the direction. All right. Then we have next 7.4. Use the graphs, okay, to determine values of x in which g of x times f prime of x is less than 0. So f prime is more like the first derivative or the gradient, okay, in this case. So if I have this as a plus and this as a minus, or if I have this as a minus and that's a plus, so where do I find the g to be above while f is decreasing? Above and decreasing. So it's decreasing in this area and it's above somewhere here, okay? Then the other section is where do I find the g below while this one is increasing? So g is below here while the other one is decreasing. So we can see the region of interest, this one and this one. But we know that if this is negative 180, this is supposed to be, this is the graph of g, which one is equivalent to 0, which is a 90. So this is going to be like a negative 90, and then this is going to be like a positive 90. So the answers for that is going to be negative 90 is less x is less positive 90. So that is how we would have answered that 7.4.1. Then 7.4.2, where do we find the cos of x to be less or equal to negative a half? Now, we're looking at the graph of cos, which is the f. So if this is a 1, negative 1, we know that negative a half should be somewhere here. Okay, we just want the x values. So when you punch that into your calculator, the shift cos of negative a half, okay, is going to give us a 120. So if that's a 120, even this side, it must be a negative 120. So the region of interest is below, okay, below a half. So this area and this area. So the answers for that will be negative 180 is less or equal to x, less or equal to negative 120. And then that side, we shall have a 120 is less or equal to x, less or equal to positive 180. So that is how I would have obtained that. Then 7.5, the graph of g is shifted 45 degrees to the right. Can we determine the new graph of h in a simplified form? So what this means, we shifting g, and g is what? The sine 2x. So it's going to be the sine of 2 into x minus 45. Change this or simplify that, we're going to have the sine of 2x minus 90. When you take out the negative, it's going to be 90 minus 2x. Then it's going to be negative sine of 90 minus 2x. This is a complementary angle, meaning that our h of x should be negative cos of 2x. And then this is what the question wanted for that part. All right, then question number 8, in the diagram, A, B, C lie in the same horizontal plane with AB being the same as AC. D is directly above A such that twice AD, okay? So in other words, if we have 2P is the same as a BC, then they want us to express AB in terms of P and Y. This is AP, but we're seeing that this is a right angle triangle, so we can use our trig ratios. And the ratio that combines adjacent and the opposite is the tan. So I would say that the tan of Y is equivalent to the opposite, which is P, over the adjacent, which is AB. Let's make AB the subject. AB is going to be P over the tan of Y. That is 8.1. Then 8.2, they're asking us to show that cos of X is equivalent to the tan of Y. So cos of X being equivalent to the tan of Y, meaning that I'm going to use AB, okay? Because I know that this is X, this must also be X, meaning that this entire thing should be the same as 180 minus 2X. So we're gonna say that BAC is 180 minus 2X, angles in a triangle, okay? So if I use BC over BAC, it should give me the same as AB over ACB. This is the sign. I'm using the sign rule, guys, forgive me. Okay, so our BC, they told us is twice what? P. So twice P over the sine of 180 minus 2x is equivalent to AB, which we found as a P over the tan of y. You're dividing it by the sine of x. Okay, let's simplify this. So 2p is going to be equal to the sine 2x is equal to p over the tan of y and then the sine of x. We can cancel this p and that p. We can do the cross multiplication, meaning that twice tan y sine x is the same as sine 2x. Let's break down the sine 2x, which is going to be 2 sine x cos x. Okay, then from that point, we can see that the 2 cancels the 2. This sine x cancels the sine x. We have the tan y being equal to the cos of x. That's what we had to do. Then 8.3, they want us to get the size of y if x is 16. So meaning that the tan of y is equal to the cos of 16. So tan y gives us a half, okay? Then for us to get y, it must be the arctan. Okay, shift tan over half. Okay, so shift tan over half, which is 26, that's gonna be 57 degrees. Okay, so that is what I'm getting for 8.3. All right, then we move on to the last question 9, okay? Provide reasons for the statements for question 9 and 10. Where is question 10? These people, where did they get this paper from? Same for question 9 and 10. Hey, did we miss out a question? But the page numbers are just in order. We move on. So in the diagram, DEF is drawn, line GH, okay, is parallel and intersects that, blah, blah, blah. They are parallel, perfect. DG is 2 to 5, okay? Then they want us to write down the ratio with reasons of HF to EF. So we know that if we have GF over DG must be the same as HF over EH, proportionality theorem. So that's also going to be the same as 2 over 5. Okay, so proportionality theorem, because these lines are parallel. Then they want us to find EH if EF is 21. So we're saying if the whole of this is a 21, can we find EH? So there are 2 ways of doing this, but let me choose the longer way, or the shorter way, sorry. So I'm going to say we're looking for EH. So I'll say 5 over this entire thing, which is a 7. So 5 over 7 is equal to our EH over 21. So EH becomes 5 over 7 times 21, and that becomes 15 centimeters. Okay, so that is how I would have approached it. Alternatively, people would have said this is x, and then that is 21 minus x, and then you solve it. You're still going to end up with the same thing. Then write down the triangle, which is similar to FGH. So this big triangle, the Makul one, because this is common. This is the same as that. That is the same as that. So since they started with F, I will also start with F. G must go with D, and then H must go with E. So that is the triangle because of angles name. Then hence, I'll calculate the value of GH over DE. GH over DE. So we're looking at the shorter side over the longer side. So we're comparing the triangles. Okay, so what I can do, I can look at this and say that if I have 2 over 7, okay, just looking at 2 divided by entire side, which is 7, should be equivalent to the shorter side, which is GH, over the longer side, which is DE. So the ratio that they want is 2/7. Okay, so that is 9.1.4. Then 9.2. Okay, the diagram POL is a diameter of a larger circle with center O. TMR is the diameter of the smaller circle with center M. The two circles intersect at L and R. PLK is a tangent, okay. The smaller circle, and TR is a tangent to the larger circle. Okay, the larger circle is having this tangent. Okay, and then the other one is having a tangent at this point. Then the question is, can we prove that LT is parallel to PR? LT, okay, let me just highlight this. LT is parallel to PR. Okay, so for us to have parallel lines, remember what we need to look out for. We need to look for corresponding angles, alternating angles, as well as the cointerior. But in this case, the cointerior will not apply. So let me use the tan chord, because I know that this angle is going to be the same as that. Okay, so I'll say that L1 is the same as R1. Reason, that's a tan chord. Then if I look at the bigger circle, we're saying that R1 is going to be the same as P. That's also a tan chord theorem. And then we can say that since L1 is the same as P, therefore LR must be parallel. No, it's LT. Okay, so LT must be parallel to PR. Reason is the converse of the corresponding angles. So that is what we had to do with 9.2.1. And then 9.2.2, okay, 9.2.2, they are telling us that LORM is a cyclic chord. We must prove that L, O, R, and M. Okay, so if I connect this, so the only thing I need to do in this case is that I need to prove either this angle is the same as this, or this angle is the same as that. So whichever one that I prove, I should be able to get that. I don't know why they're giving it 5 marks. They're telling us that this line is LT, okay, is parallel to OM. So these lines are parallel. So if they are parallel, what do we see? So you're going to say that this angle here is also going to be the same as O1. Okay, so what I'm saying is that P, okay, P is the same as O1. Reason, those are corresponding angles because OM is parallel to PR. Okay, so if this angle is the same as that, we can also see, or we proved that R1 was the same as P. Okay, but R1 is the same as P. We proved that earlier on. And if that is true, simply means that this angle, that since R1 is the same as O1, because we have this kind of a bow tie, okay? Therefore, L, O, R, M is a cyclic chord. And the reason is the converse of angles in the same segment. Angles in the same segment, or angles subtended the same whatever. So that is what we were supposed to do in that case. So guys, I'm not seeing question 10. Let's see with this, because the instructions said we have 10 questions, and then I'm not seeing that. So unfortunately, I'll have to stop at that and then wish you all guys the best. So in this paper, I can write it as yeah, 90. It's fairer compared to paper 1. All the best, guys, in your remaining examinations. I sign.